Welcome to NCRT Made Easy.
In the previous videos, we have completed introduction, individual differences, assessments. In the last video, we completed intelligence and psychometric approaches. In this video, we'll be doing the information processing, which includes the three theories.
Beginning with theory of multiple intelligence.
According to Howard, intelligence is not a single entity; rather, this type of intelligence exists. Each of these intelligences are independent of each other. This means that if a person exhibits one type of intelligence, it does not necessarily indicate being high or low on other types of intelligence. That means if someone has verbal intelligence, it is not necessary that there will be another type of intelligence like verbal intelligence and they will be high or low in for sure. They are independent of each other, but they have not just one type of intelligence. Secondly, Gardner also put forth that different types of intelligence interact and work together to find a solution to a problem. So, having, for example, verbal intelligence is high, that does not mean numerical ability will also be high. But they work together to define how a person is intelligent. So, they interact together and work together to find a solution to a problem. Gardner studied extremely talented persons who had shown exceptional abilities in their respective areas. And that's how he found the eight types of intelligence, or you can say distinctions of intelligence that work together. Now we start with the first one here, which is linguistic. Linguistic, let me write it down over here. It is the ability to produce and use language. So, as the name suggests, linguistic ability is the ability to produce and use language. It is the capacity to use language fluently and flexibly to express one's thinking and understand others. The people who are high on this are word smart. So, if you're high on this, you are word smart. Okay, which means they are sensitive to different shades of different word meanings. They understand different word meanings. Okay, different shades of word meanings are articulate and can create linguistic images in their mind. Example: people under this intelligence come as poets and writers. So poets and writers are very strong in this component of intelligence. Linguistic is the ability to produce and use language. Under this question, all you need to write is who is the psychologist behind this, what are the eight levels, and this one line, along with a specific important point like this, or you can just directly go to the poets and writers having high of this one, or specializing in linguistic intelligence. Next, we have the second type, which is logical mathematical ability. Logical mathematical means using logics for mathematics, which is the ability to think logically and critically and solve problems. So what comes under this? Person high on this type of intelligence can think logically and critically. They engage in abstract reasoning and can manipulate symbols to form and solve mathematical problems. So let's write down some important points on this, that they have abstract reasoning, clear reasoning, which is logical of course, and they can manipulate symbols to solve mathematical problems. So manipulate symbols to solve mathematical problems. Okay, scientists and okay, me this examples are very important. Sometimes they give it as case-based study, like they will write you, let's say Akash is a poet. What type of intelligence is he high on? And under whose theory or under what theory of information processing does his intelligence or his dimension of intelligence lie under? You can write a beautiful answer for this. You can say as Akash is a poet, he's word smart, and as he's word smart, he has the ability to produce and use language, which comes under linguistic intelligence, which was proposed by Howard Gardner under theory of multiple intelligences. You can explain it like that, and it's going to be a very beautiful answer if you can explain his word better. That he's word smart, he's fluent, he's clear, and he used different shades of word meanings. You can say those, and then write a very good answer for that. Next, we have example for this. So there's scientists, they discover things, and there's Nobel Prize winners, they also discover things. So they use the logical thinking and mathematical computations to find the answers. So, for example, how atoms were discovered, they also got Nobel Prizes. They're not just scientists, but they have used mathematical computations as well. Like, for example, the theory of energy, E is equal to mc square, just like that. They use mathematical computations as well. But there are various types of Nobel Prizes as well. Next, we have spatial ability, okay, which is an ability to form visual images and patterns. Like we already saw before in the theory of primary mental abilities, spatial is the ability to form or understand visualizing patterns and forms. So again, it is an ability, as I said before, if you remember, that in this chapter and in the next chapter there will be many such listing. But if you understand, there's a different definite pattern in these, which you will be very clear with if you have consistent revision. An ability to form visual images and patterns. In my notes, I'm writing it like this, but if you wish and you have a better idea of visualizing your notes so that you can revise it more consistently and efficiently, you can try. So there are images and patterns. Under this, it refers to the abilities involved in forming, using, and transforming mental images. Person high on this intelligence can easily represent the spatial world in mind. Example, okay, so let's say easily represent the spatial world in mind. Who are these? There are examples like pilots, sailors, sculptors, painters. You see the imaginations they use? Sculptors, painters, architects, they design. Architects, interior designers, or interior decorators, surgeons, etc. Surgeons. They tend to have high spatial ability or spatial intelligence. Next, we have musical. This theory is very very important because it comes as case study most of the time. In most of the previous papers, you also find these are a definite question that will come as a. Next, we have the fourth one, which is musical. Musical ability. Many of our friends, many of us are good in the musical ability. They just have a giftedness or talent. You also learn later on that giftedness and talent is different. We'll be coming to that later on in the next topic, purely. Okay, so outcomes under musical, it is the ability to produce and manipulate. Manipulate in the sense control. Produce and manipulate musical rhythms and patterns. Musical rhythms and patterns. What comes under this? It is the capacity to produce, create, and manipulate musical patterns. Person high, I don't think we need to write a line like this over here. We can just directly go to the examples, or we can just explain this better. This line itself is explanation. For this, examples come under like people who are sensitive to sounds and vibrations. Okay, we can also write that they are sensitive to sounds and vibrations. Sounds and vibrations. and creating new pattern of sounds. So of course, the definite examples of these will be definite examples of this would be instrumentalists, musicians. Moving on to the next one, which is bodily kinesthetic. I'll mention it here. Bodily kinesthetic, as the name says, kinesthetic. As the name says, it is the ability to use whole or portions of body flexibly and creatively. Let's write it down. Ability to use whole or portions of body flexibly and creatively. Okay, and this consists of the whole body or portions of it, as it says, for display or construction of products and problem solving, like athletes, dancers, actors, sportspersons, gymnasts, surgeons, etc. So surgeons goes for both these, this one and this one. So we have the examples here. You can just use this line to explain what are the or you can explain these examples as the description of this if needed. Then you go athletes, dancers, sorry, actors, then sports persons, gymnasts, and surgeons. So these are the jobs under which or professions under which bodily kinesthetic intelligence is used. Next, we go to the sixth one, which is interpersonal. Sixth one, which is interpersonal. As this says, it is, right, the difference between inter and intra. Inter is understanding of others or others. Intra is oneself. So interpersonal, ability to understand the subtle aspects. So subtle aspects of others' behaviors. Of others' behaviors. Okay? So this is the ability to understand the motives, feelings, behavior, everything of the other person. That is to bond into a comfortable relationship with others. So we write that they have the ability to understand the motives, feelings, and behaviors of people. And behaviors of people, other people. That is, they have, they are able to bond into comfortable relationship with others. Comfortable relationship with others. Who comes under this? Examples go to psychologists, very obvious. Psychologists, counselors, politicians, politicians, social workers, social workers, then religious leaders. So these come under interpersonal. Then we have the seventh one, second last one. There is intrapersonal. Intra, as I said, is the ability to understand others. So we write it as ability to understand one's own feelings. Let's write down this point. Motives and desires. So it is the ability to understand one's own feelings, motives, and desires. That is, they use the knowledge of one's own internal strength and limitations, and using that knowledge, they're able to effectively relate to others. The person high on these ability have finer sensibility regarding their own identity, human existence, and meaning of life. So they have have knowledge on their internal strength, limitations, etc. To have sensibility regarding their identity, existence, and meaning of life, etc. And existence. Okay, let's write it down. And existence. So examples that come under this are philosophers and spiritual leaders. Spiritual leaders. That was the seventh one. And then we go to the last one, which is naturalistic. It might seem long, all of these eight might seem long, but then this will give you a definite mark. Full 5 marks if it comes as, or full 3 marks if they ask only for some, like that. Then we have naturalistic, which by its name it says it is the ability to identify the features of natural world. Natural world. This one, it involves complete awareness of our relationship with the natural world. As the name says, it is useful in recognizing the beauty of different species of flora and fauna and making subtle discriminations in the natural world. Of course, we know what examples are going to come under this, but first we refer this point. Recognizing the useful in recognizing the beauty of different species or different flora and fauna. Flora and fauna. And the natural world. Natural world. Then we have examples. Of course, it is hunters, farmers, tourists, botanists, zoologists, zoologists, then there are bird watchers, biologists, etc. Watchers, etc. That is it for the theory of multiple intelligence. Then we'll be going to hierarchy theory. Important point was given by Robert Sternberg. The basic notion given by Sternberg was that intelligence is the ability to adapt or ability to adapt, shape, and select environment to accomplish one's goals and those of one's society and culture. So, according to Robert Sternberg, intelligence is the ability to adapt, shape, and select environment to accomplish one's goals and those of one's society and culture. According to his theory, there are three basic types of intelligence. So, Sternberg found three basic intelligences. First one is componential. Very important again. Componential. This one is also called analytical. Also called analytical intelligence. Over here, it is the analysis of information to solve problems. It is the analysis of information to solve problems. Here, it is again broken into three components. First of all, person high on this ability think analytically and critically and succeed in sports. That's why it's called analytical intelligence. Then this has three components serving different functions. First one that comes under this, okay, let's tell you this. First one under this subtopic. First one is knowledge acquisition. Here is where you gather the knowledge or you get the knowledge, that is the input. First is the knowledge acquisition, in which is responsible for learning and acquisition of the ways of doing things, which is the input. Learning ways of doing things. Ways of doing things. Second is meta or high order. So first we've gathered the information or the input is done. Second is meta or higher order, which means now we think on it, we analyze it. Higher order, meta or higher order component. So we just write it, meta or higher order. In this, we are planning concerning what to do and how to do. So planning concerning how to do and what to do. Third, third is the last one where we've done all this input, higher order thinking. Now it's time for performance. On the performance stage, we do the actual thing, which is it involves actually doing things. So here we learned how to do things, here we planned how and what to do, and then here we finally do it. So that is triarchic theory given by Robert Sternberg. So he thinks through this we'll adapt and shape and serve the environment to accomplish our goals for the society and culture. Next thing he gave was second component. Remember these are just subtopics. He has three components under his intelligence. Componential. Next one is experiential. As the name suggests, it's about experiment. It is also called creative intelligence. Creative intelligence. You might also get these as you can also write this as a box. When it comes for exam, you can write triarchic theory and then you can make componential, experiential, and then contextual, which is coming next. So for experiential, which is also called creative intelligence, this involves using the past experiences creatively to solve novel problems. It is also reflected in creative performance. Definitely. So what is this? Using past experiences creatively, using past experiences creatively to solve novel problems. To solve novel problems. That is new problems. And when person hand this aspect integrate different experiences in original way to make new discoveries and inventions. They quickly find out which information is crucial and is useful in given situations. So they quickly find out information is useful in given situation. Informations or infos useful in given situations. And then they integrate different experiences in original way to make new discoveries. In original way to make new discoveries. And that is it for experiential. Then we go to contextual. The third component. Contextual, which is also called practical intelligence. You need to remember the three because they might say define analytical intelligence or creative intelligence or this, or they might say differential analytical intelligence. If you just know componential, you might end up being confused when analytical is mentioned. So it's better to be mentioning both. Practical. Now this one, as the name suggests, it is the ability to deal with environmental demands. With environmental, this environmental situations. With environmental demands encountered on daily basis. Encountered on daily basis. It can also be called street smart. Street smart. They call it street smartness or they call it business sense, which is being practical, of course. We've all heard this word around us. Business sense. The person, of course, high on this aspect easily adapt to their present environment to fit their needs. Therefore, they turn out to be successful in life. Sternberg's triarchic theory of intelligence represents the information processing approach. The information processing is more valuable and more effective. Next, we're going to go to past model. Next, we go to past model, the most important of it all. Definitely a question will come from this part. This one has been developed by three psychologists together. Very important to notice. The names J.P. Das, Jack Nagley. If you learn this as a song, it becomes totally very easy to learn. You end up just a JP and you remember all of the names. Jack Nagley and Kirby in 1994, but that date is not important to remember. According to this model, intellectual activity involves the independent functioning of three neurological systems called the functional units of brain. So they have three neurological systems called the functional units of brain. These units are responsible for arousal or attention, coding or processing, and planning respectively. As I already said, first neurological system is A. We start with A, which is, you can also go through P first, but let's go to A first. Arousal or attention. I already said before, arousal or attention, which is A. In this, the state of arousal is basic to any behavior. It means motivation or feeling of doing something. So state of arousal is basic to any behavior as it helps in attending to the stimuli. There is a stimuli when we get an activity. That stimuli is called arousal. Arousal is a response to that stimuli. So arousal and attention enable a person to process information. Arousal and attention enable a person to process information. To process information. An optimal level of arousal focuses our attention to the relevant aspects of a problem. So there is an optimal level of arousal needed to focus. So an optimal level of arousal focuses our attention, which is arousal focuses our attention. Focuses our attention to the aspects of a problem. To the aspects of a problem. Too much or too little arousal would interfere with attention. Let's mention that too. Too much or too little arousal would interfere attention. Would interfere attention. For instance, when you're told by a teacher about a test which he or she plans to hold, it would arouse you to attend to a specific chapters. So for example, okay, let's take another example. For example, you have a test coming up and your teacher says the important topics are this, and this. Of course, there will be an arousal in you to just specifically go through those topics or go through specifically through those topics. That is the sense of arousal that helps you focus. Arousal forces you to focus your attention on reading, learning, and revising the contents of the chapter. That is very simple. Next, we have simultaneous, and successive processing. S and S is separate, but then you can edit similar. Simultaneous happen together. Simultaneous and successive processing. Processing. Under this, we can find that what is simultaneous. That is, we integrate the information into our knowledge system, either simultaneously or successively. This is what this says. Simultaneous processing takes place when we perceive relations among various components and integrate them into a meaningful pattern. Takes place when we perceive various concepts, various concepts and integrate them into a meaningful pattern. Them into a meaningful pattern. Example, Raven's progressive matrices. This test you'll not be aware of right now because it's coming in the second chapter. In this, a design is presented. The psychologist presents a design from which a part has been removed. You are required to choose one of the six options that best completes the design. So it's like, what is your thoughts? How do you simultaneously complete the story? That is how it happens. Second, we have successive processing. Successive processing takes place when you remember all the information serially. When you remember all information serially. Remember all the information serially. So one after the other, one after the other. So that recall of one leads to recall of another. So yeah. So that recall of one leads to recall of another. Example: learning of digits, alphabets, multiplication tables, etc. If you want, you can write learning of digits, alphabets, etc. Alphabets, etc. That's for the second one. And the third one is planning, which is the last part of past model. This is an essential feature of intelligence. After information is attended to and processed, planning is activated. So, after info is processed, planning is activated. This is why I suggest you to write this, this, and then this. Because after the information is processed, planning is activated. But it is just mentioned as past model. Okay. So it allows to think of various actions. It allows to think of various possible actions, implement them to reach a target, and evaluate their effectiveness. So, what does it help us to do? Think of possible courses of action, courses of action, courses of action, implement them, implement them to reach a target, or we can just write implement them and evaluate their effectiveness. Evaluate their effectiveness. Very basic, we know that. Effectiveness. If plan does not work, it is modified to suit the requirements of task. For example, to take a test schedule, you would have set goals, plan a time, and get clarification in case of problems in the topic. If you're not able to tackle the chapter, then you may think of other ways like give more time to study that topic or ask from the teacher for doubts, study with friends, etc. These past model, this whole past model processes operate on knowledge-based development either formally or informally from the environment. These processes are interactive and dynamic in nature. What are they? These processes, let's say the basic, like in conclusion to all of this, these are interactive and dynamic in nature. Interactive and dynamic in nature with distinctive functions. Distinctive functions. Okay, now Das and Nagliri have also developed battery of tests. That is something besides this that these psychologists have done. So we'll mention it like this. Das and Nagliri have also developed developed battery of tests known as, very important, cognitive, might come as MCQs though, cognitive assessment system, CAS in short form. It consists of verbal as well as non-verbal tasks that measure basic cognitive functions presumed to be independent of schooling. So independent of schooling, all the kinds of verbal and non-verbal tasks. It is there inside it. So battle test means a group of tests. Battle test is meant for individuals between 5 to 18 years of age. The result of assessment can be used to remedy the cognitive deficits of children with learning problems. This model represents the information processing approach to intelligence. So that is it. We've learned three theories under or three models under the information processing theory. Next, we're going to be learning the individual differences in intelligence, like the interplay of nature and nurture in the intelligence. This is very important. This comes as case study for sure, a definite question. Then we'll be learning IQ, how to calculate IQ, the IQ curve, and then we'll have intellectual deficiency, intellectual giftedness, difference between talent and giftedness in the next video. See you there.